Welcome to the thrilling world of esports, where dreams are forged, champions are made, and absolutely no one would ever exploit a bunch of hardworking staff because of their own mistakes and ego. Right? If that were the case, there wouldn't be a need for this video or any of the countless Twitter threads explaining how well this scene can treat you. But the one thing everyone should and majorly does is pay upon agreement, verbal or signed. If that doesn't happen, well, it's a scam. And that's how we reach Pigs in Wings, or rather PNW for short, who not only scammed multiple staff at once for large sums of money, but treated them like garbage while having about the same dumpster quality of an esports experience. What was it like casting for PNW, and how did you feel about the quality?
Oh boy, don't get me started.
Here we go.
Oh man. Okay, so
as for what truly makes it the most embarrassing is how they responded to the criticism and being called out afterwards. Now, to clarify how I'm involved with the incident we'll cover in this video, I'm an esports caster that commentates titles such as Rainbow Six Siege, Valorant, Rocket League, and so on. I haven't casted an official event yet, meaning most of my work comes through unofficial leagues or tournaments that are usually voluntary work for casters wanting to gain experience. Once around the midpoint of my current casting career, I received a Discord message from the user PNW. Hey there, I saw that you are a caster. Do you cast Rocket League? I do cast Rocket League, yes. As from this point on, I'd become part of what is the most embarrassing esports scam. As you usually do, PNW and I introduced ourselves. He mentioned he pays casters on a monthly basis, which will be very important later on, and I gave him my experience as we started debating for a trial cast. He was interested in me covering his Rocket League show matches, which would later include Valorant as well. And right off the bat, I ran into a small issue. This is nothing compared to what we'll be getting into later, but since we agreed on a Thursday, I wish to know the hour of which I'd be trialing at. And from his response, he wasn't sure himself, saying it could be at 7, 8, 9, or 10 p.m. CST, which is my time zone. Hell, we're playing roulette with my casting schedule now? Spin the wheel and see what you get, 7, 8, 9, or the lucky 10. Anyways, it continued with him asking if solo casting Valorant would be impossible. Now that's another red flag because solo casting is just bad. I thought that much was obvious, but we digress as the trial ended up being rescheduled to a Tuesday with the time now being confirmed. And as I was hooked up with a great caster Ped, who some of you may or may not know, PNW came out saying, I don't know if you've casted with him before, but he is very outspoken, so my thinking was that he will do 70 to 75% of the casting and you can shadow off of him. Sound okay? Now, while I have been a caster for some time by this point, this was at the very early stage of my Rocket League entrance, so I agreed seeing as Ped knows this field a lot better than I do and didn't want to get on the bad side of Mr. PNW. With my first cast finished, I realized that PNW constantly stays muted while in calls and his communication is strictly through messaging for some reason. But that's none of my concern, so after the cast it then continued on to more rescheduling, unconfirmed dates and times, him wanting me on Valorant matches with stating all my casts will be paid gigs. The start of December came around the corner and it was payment time. I gave him my details. It took a bit of asking as at first it didn't come through, but PNW said he was busy and that's something I can understand. With $15 per hour of casting for a student whose soul animal is Eugene Harold Krabs, my pincers were shaken in excitement. Considering it was Christmas time soon after, jolly old PNW sent the remainder of the payment from November. This ensured me that I could confidently cast and trust this individual. Casts were booming from me. I accepted almost every job and kept the streak going even if a lot of the commentating turned into solo casts. But in general, PNW was for sure liking what I did, and not only that, but also complimented me, seeing as I was doing a good job in his eyes, which you should also keep in mind for later. With winter still active, December was over and going into the second week of January, I began to wonder, why hasn't my PayPal received any new incomes? Heading to PNW's messages, he mentioned that the cast from this month would be paid in February. There was a slight confusion as I was talking about the ones from December and I imagine he meant January by this month, but since I've been paid before, I trusted him to follow up on his word and continued working. Time flew by with more matches and a newly added caster scheduling form that asks you on your availability on a weekly basis. Now let me give you a fun fact. Casting most of the time is freelancing. We don't get a weekly schedule on when we work or not, we simply get a job and mark it down if it's available. The issue with this would be that I can mark all the 20 hours inside the form as available, but I would end up doing only 2 or 3. So I let him know that if an offer comes around before his confirmation, I would cast their match instead. To which he complained because I'm not giving his matches priority, and I had to let him know how unreasonable that was for him to ask. While on the topic of unreasonable, it was February, where the chase began. He mentioned my pay would come in next week, which delaying it for a bit wasn't much of an issue for me, as I still saw him as someone who was very happy with how I've performed. He even made sure I wasn't burning out and that he didn't overwork me, but joke's on him, screaming at pixels is one of my favorite things to do. I mean, look at me right now! And so we reached the starting point of PNW's scam. The 14th of February was here. The original message I was looking for from PNW in his Discord server was deleted, but from context I believe there were financial issues on the side of PNW, which I understood but still asked about my payments ranging all the way from December. They've been dragging on for too long and he didn't even seem to realize how much unpaid casts lurked from then. The conversation ended with a silent okay. No confirmation, simply acknowledging the missed payments. 2 days after, it was announced Pigs and Wings will take a rest and return on March 3rd. Since it wasn't right for casters to continue working without his finances being on the right track. A couple of days later, the caster Barked asked if any updates came out, with PNW hoping to resume payments within the next few days. But keeping in mind that Barked and myself had casted quite a few matches and it wouldn't be realistic to send the payment out fully. The silence persisted until the 26th of February, where I yet again became curious about my payment or when they would come through. PNW mentioned that his finances are still not where they should be, letting me in on his personal issues and presenting a plan to turn Pigs and Wings into a business that generates revenue. Which wasn't something I cared about, I just wanted what was owed to me. A decision was made that Pigs and Wings would switch from paid to voluntary as he asked for my input. At this point, some may call me dumb because I should have instantly went on to social media and talked about it, but I wanted to be on his good side just to make sure my payment actually comes through since I was at triple digits. That quickly converted into him yet again asking for my casting availability. Promises about my payments kept appearing as it was supposed to happen by the end of the month. Then within the next 1 to 2 days, then a message asking me about my PayPal email, and all of a sudden, it was April. It has now been around 4 months of delaying my payment, and PNW came out with the following. As you may have noticed, you have not received any payment just yet. Wanted to explain why you have not received any payment since you may be curious. Unfortunately, it's simply a case that you've drawn the short end of the stick in this case. He hoped that paying me once in the past held weight, which it for sure did, but the manipulative lie of being paid sometime that week showed itself again. He does recognize it's shitty, but PNW, it's not a little shitty. It's quite shitty. But he asked for my patience as payment was meant to arrive within the next few days, which I complied with. I again reached out for payment, where I was to message PNW on the weekend to receive a positive update. This was a good update for once. It may have taken only 4 months, but hey, we're getting somewhere. At least that's what I was hoping for. 2 days after, I get a message saying another week is needed. But I got a deal of a lifetime that for any casts I would do, would be paid for directly after. I was clearly getting sick and tired saying I don't want this to turn into months from weeks, which it kind of already has, but still hoping to be on his good side. Now confessing he didn't recognize he owed me so much, PNW made it look as if I should have been the one telling him after the first couple of casts. Which I did. In February, and in case he forgot, I also reminded him how he's delayed it till March and brought it to where we are. He mentions his job cutting him off, which is rough. I always look at it from the other perspective. But if you promise to pay someone for their services, it becomes extremely stupid once you've delayed it for this long. Albeit I was still trying to be reasonable, for some reason. It has been almost half a year, and I wanted to make it clear to him that I'd want my previous payments to start coming around in full or partial. But Mark Cuban over here makes me a deal. For every cast I do, he would pay me double so that after like 10 casts it would be caught up. More like 15, but that doesn't matter. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as you have all been internally screaming at me for how naively patient I've been, for the first time I set the ground straight. I let it be known that it's uncomfortable to cast under the given situation and that I expect it to be paid in the following 2 to 3 weeks. Otherwise, I would call off my connection with the league and speak out publicly. I didn't ask for full payment, but partial at least to see that it's still within his plan to actually pay me despite the time frame it's already taken. He found it fair, which I respected, and not too long after, in the Pigs and Wings Discord server was a message, claiming he was suffering from a burnout and for PNW to take another break. Payments also reaching a point inside that conversation with optimism on the league becoming active soon again. Following this into my DMs, we concluded that a sort of payment was still intended within that 2 to 3 week period. After making it clear I don't want my payment to take another 5 months, on June 5th, 15 euros hit my PayPal, which seemed like a great beginning to bury the hatchet. June 7th, 12:14. Hey man, I'ma be honest. I'm not exactly sure if I'll be able to send you any more payment this week. Budget is still a bit tight. I didn't specifically like being threatened for calling me out on socials, to be honest. If you choose to go that route, it's kinda fair, but at least I've been transparent with you. Even reading this back now. Alright, here it amps up. First off, I had to correct him because he hasn't been transparent by lying multiple times and not following up with it. Then I mentioned the time it's taken, how I've tried being reasonable, and if I didn't threaten him, nothing would have changed. He then forwards that it's still within his plan to pay me and recognizes it's his fault for not realizing the payment amount. To finalize his message, he mentions how respectful he's been, and if I end up taking the social route, the bridge of inclining to pay would be burnt. Now, in my response, I make it clear that I never said he hasn't been respectful, but the issue of empty promises and the time it's taken bothers me. We are far beyond a reasonable time of payment, but I'm still willing to wait these final few weeks. Pigs and Wings is an investment. When you get a little bit older, you will understand that finances are not as simple as it seems. Having $1,000 doesn't mean I'm actually able to provide it. So much about respect, yet I'm treated as a child who doesn't understand finances or investing? A bit disrespectful if you ask me. Either way, to be frank, I didn't care about his investment or anything. I just wanted compensation. I won't talk to you about your investments since it isn't what fits into our topic. The only thing I'm looking out for is that I get what I was promised for my work. Then he goes on again how threatening him won't make anything quicker and how he's prepared for anything I decide to do, as if this is a battle of sorts. Stepping forward, he mentions that in the case I do badmouth Pigs and Wings, he won't compensate. PNW also said he didn't talk to me as a child, but I had to understand he's several years older and has more working experience. Which I can't confirm, as I don't know him and he was always muted on Discord, like an esports guru hiding his identity. After a couple of messages, he makes it seem as if he just wants me to go on social media, saying it's been 2 weeks and he won't be able to send anymore, and stating I'm looking to harm him by going public. Which, by the way, PNW, you did this to yourself. It's followed by more of my explaining, and then he starts asking if I'll be posting on socials. Because of course, if I want to post on my social media, it needs to go through the boss man over here first. We agree that if he compensates, I won't talk out, giving him the weekend to figure it out. Later that same day, he starts apologizing about how this happened to me, which for context, this isn't the first time I've been scammed, as that might be a topic for another video. What's even funnier is that he says I didn't realize a lot of orgs were doing this. He knows exactly what he's doing and spied on me to learn there were more competitors inside the scam scene aside from himself. I see you, PNW. I can respect someone for trying to be the best. And now, for the next part, buckle your seatbelts because PNW says, I'll tell you a quick story. Sit by the campfire, enjoyers and enthusiasts, grab your s'mores and listen closely. PNW tells a story about working at a job that didn't pay him for 3 months, which the authorities handled later. He didn't mean to disrespect me in that he's old. Wait, I swear we've been here before. This discussion was already over a couple of slides ago. And after that, he gave it a rest. Or so I thought. The next day, he's back to preaching on how going to socials won't solve anything, how I probably shouldn't cast at P&W anymore so it doesn't pile up, and how he's paid me for the last year. By that, it means he's given me the 15 euros from December, which doesn't cancel out the January payments, and I don't know why he's telling me to stop casting for his show matches when at this point he's already kicked me out of the Discord server. We'll be better off if you let me pay you bit by bit, even if it continues to take a long time. Alrighty boys, weekly income of $2 and a life lesson from P&W, here we come. I declared my final offer, that if he paid me 1 to 2 worth of casts per week, I would be willing to work it out. The only thing I needed was a confirmation, nothing. I asked him again, nothing. And so, the tweet was posted. Yo, you posted on socials? I thought we had an agreement. When? I thought so too, but without confirmation, I guess not. The tweet quickly blew up, gaining traction and support from many esport friends and staff, siding with me and agreeing on one thing as a whole. Payment should always be sent on time. Also, I asked a hypothetical question that if a similar situation were to happen to some people in my Discord, and yeah, here's one of the replies. So to all of you watching, make sure not to scam Alchemist Waffle. He's a real one. Now, if you remember from earlier, I mentioned names I've worked with, such as Ped, Rhino, Bart, and many others like Lucky Spec, Ground Zero, Hazza, and Sir Pegasus, who are all a fantastic bunch. They began posting their own experiences with pigs and wings, how they were treated, how much they were owed, and while some shared similar traits from P&W as myself, others had it even worse. And I want to give a huge shout out to Sir Pegasus, who in a very short time frame gathered everyone involved in one Discord server where all the wrongdoings of P&W would be piled up. From some casters, I haven't received permission to share the details they posted in the Discord, which is completely fine. As for those who did give me permission to share their private conversations with P&W, it reaches a whole nother level. The first person I'd like to take a look at would be the lovely Hazza, whose experience is a bit different to the rest of us as he never actually worked with P&W. Hazza's major experience was through the great Minecraft charity event hosted by Rhino, as Hazza was in charge of broadcasts, creating overlays, and more. He posted a format to fill out for anyone entering the competition, it being very simple. Fill in the race type, either solo or with a team, team name, player name, and the link where it would be streamed. It's simple enough, right? P&W sent him an incorrectly filled out form to which Hazza reacted with an X emoji to let him know it was wrong. P&W then proceeds to ask Hazza why he X'd out the post and calls him an idiot. Hazza explained what the X emoji means, which was responded to with another insult. A shocking response, but Hazza kept his cool. Props to him, while P&W continued on soiling his adult diapers throughout the conversation over such a small issue he created. Trouble arises when P&W can't remember his Minecraft username and gives Hazza random guesses, taking it back to the lucky spin. Hazza tells him again to just give him his Minecraft username as it isn't hard. P&W says, alright, can do. Moron. And you may have found that bad. 30 minutes later, P&W demands an apology for a mistake Hazza made? Hazza the GOAT does not apologize, with P&W asking him to be more hospitable to his guests, and as it will serve him in the future. P&W then sends a winking smiley, which is then followed up by this. Yo, by the way, if we're playing in the same server, just know that Team P&W got your number. We ain't taking this disrespect lightly. A real circus, and Hazza even puts in the fun fact that P&W finished second to last, which shows he can't be the best at anything, even when it comes to sucking at Minecraft. As for our next few cases, coming from similar interactions like my own with P&W, I will only try to expose anything out of what has already happened to me. Lucky Spec is a fantastic caster, and great friend of mine, who also let me stay over at their house when I did my first LAN in Scotland, so great guy. He had a similar run with P&W like me, simple introduction, delays, lies, having to chase up for his money, being kicked, and although his amount of owed money might be smaller, he was still mostly bothered by the leaving message from P&W to us. To quote it, On a positive note, I think you all have shown a massive growth and development respectively from casting here, so even though I messed up really bad with payments the past few months, at least you gained valuable experience from being here. It's shown PNW knows he's in the wrong, but we should be grateful for the chum bucket experience we received while being there, and PNW unsurprisingly responding with, "Yeah, so I'm not paying you now, by the way." And now I take a quick moment to show you an interview I recently did with Lecky Spec, going deeper into his thoughts of when this situation happened and how it's affected his view upon the esports scene. Ladies and gentlemen, Lecky Spec, or Alec, or whatever you want to call the man, the myth, the legend here, is going to be a caster who is with me alongside the PNW drama scam. Again, many different ways of calling it, so it's only reasonable that I get to reach out to my man here and ask him about it. And firstly, Lecky Spec, how are we doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm so excited to sit down and finally talk smack. I'm great. I've been waiting for this.
The way he acted was really out of bounds, but let's get to the questions. Now, basically, his exiting message talked about how at least we gained experience, valuable experience from being at PNW, and well, Alec, what's your response to it?
Oh, where do I start with this, man? It's experience is something that can be taken advantage of, right? Experience and exposure. It's the problem with the esports industry at the minute, right? Instead of being offered like payment, you're most of the time offered exposure and that sort of like, you're getting your name out there situation. In the Pigs and Wings case, I don't think the 27 followers really counts as engagement and exposure, at least for myself. Yeah, there's like so many other voluntary esport organizers and, teams out there that will happily take you on and will be so upfront with you and say, hey, look, we don't have the money in the budget to pay you for your work. However, we will put your name out there. In this case, though, it was, hey, I'm going to pay you. But instead of paying you, you're getting exposure. And it's the same thing, right? My 27 followers are, they're the same thing as $2,000.
It is messed up. Again, promising and then not delivering and then making himself look like the victim. It's another thing, but let's continue, How did this scam affect your view upon the esports scene?
I mean, a little bit, especially during it, right? In order for us to kind of feel like we're doing the right thing in the industry and getting somewhere, we have to take jobs like Pigs and Wings, where the broadcast and production was not to an esport standard at all, the communication wasn't to an esport standard at all, but ultimately the promise of a paycheck was still there. And I would much rather, go cast for a tournament organizer that has all the production there and it feels proper and I feel like I'm getting somewhere and it's all voluntary than the low budget little tussle matches that I got. But hey, I got like €15 out of it.
For scams like these, for anyone that may be watching or could find themselves in a position like this, how would you go about preventing them?
All that we can do as talent and as, a community in esports is spread the word of these people, of these individuals who are, exploiting us talent.
Can you please elaborate, explain, what was it like casting for PNW and how did you feel about the quality?
Oh boy, don't get me started.
Here we go.
Oh man. Okay, so let's dive on down memory lane for a little bit, right? Casting with Pigs and Wings, when I was approached by PNW himself, I expected more. Having to sit with a timer on my left monitor and let that roll until I was able to start speaking. I've never seen something like that done before. So the production definitely, it was not there.
I don't want to waste any more of your time, Alec. I want to get you back to your resting space, whatever you are doing. And before we conclude the interview, if he's watching this video, if he's listening to us right now, what would you say to him?
Oh man, I think I'm going to be so real. I think the show matches, they did have potential. I think they were something that we don't really see that often, so it had potential. However, the way that PNW went about it was completely wrong. And then to go and spit the dummy out, essentially, he said, my casters were shit.
Oh,
blah,
that
blah,
was...
You went and asked for my services personally in my DMs. I did not reach out to you first. I've never heard of you. And quite frankly, I wished it stayed that way, but I mean, yeah, it is what it is.
As I also mentioned, Sir Pegasus being the lovely caster to bring all the proof into one spot, he too had a very similar experience, slow introduction for a trial cast that slowly descended into delayed madness. But, as he was owed less, the payment ended up coming through anyways, and from my understanding, Sir Pegasus was in contact with someone who wasn't kicked from the server as quickly like the rest of us. That gives us this message where PNW states he didn't make this decision due to us being bad casters, as if we were, he wouldn't have selected us in the first place. The kindish message was blown away by the bombshell where PNW yapped about why he kicked the casters, how much respect he has for us, but believes that the show matches can live without casters. By agreeing how manipulative, childish, and disgusting this behavior is, it led to Sir Pegasus creating a space for us to see the full extent of damage caused by this embarrassing individual. As with Lecky Spec, I too reached out to Sir Pegasus for a short interview. Let's hear what he thought and still thinks of Pigs in Wings. Ladies and gentlemen, this here is the lovely Sir Pegasus. He was with me across the multitude of times through Rocket League, and of course, he is a well-renowned Rocket League caster. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Just had a day down the river. It's been quite some time since the topic of discussion today happened, so it has been nice to somewhat move away from it, let's just say, but there are some things that have to be set in stone, which is why I agree to be here alongside you. And of course, you're just a good friend of mine as well, so always want to help out the homies and the wider cast community.
You were the one who got us all together, so I feel it only right that you also take a bit of this questionnaire, like how it was from your perspective. So to start off with the first question, can you explain what was the opening thought when you invited everyone together to create the Discord server where all the information currently lies?
Well, it was just the easiest way to consolidate all that information. There were a few Twitter threads, of course, your one really starting the charge, I guess we could say here, but I didn't want people to have that idea that this was an isolated incident. I felt like it would be, more well-rounded and more intelligent to have a little bit of a deep dive with multiple different perspectives, showing how they all link together. I wanted this to be the place where it was all laid out, especially with, of course, a lot of trusted individuals there. I think of yourself, Lecky Spec, Rhino, Ground Zero, and I included a section where we really highlighted what makes a contract, because I feel like it's that one thing that no one teaches you about, and TOs as well. The fact that, can a Discord DM be a contract? Absolutely. In fact, a contract can be made pretty darn easily.
You, at the first starting point from your statement, weren't aware of how much money others like myself, Barked, were owed, because you ended up getting everything, which is fantastic. I'm happy that
Yes.
PNW actually ended getting to that bargain. But what was your reaction when you figured out how much we were owed and affected?
So, yeah, felt a bit manipulated. Didn't like that it essentially did put this wall between myself and other casters there. And I feel like myself and a lot of those other casters definitely learned their lessons. I think you can see, honestly, the clear correlation with time stuck with PNW and people's professionalism, let's just say. I think back to that first wave, which, by the way, we did not know even existed, of North American casters a year back before I joined, that had been run through the motions and left relatively quickly when they felt like payment was stretching too long, and how that was a little bit of a slippery slope, which was eventually met when the next generation of casters came in with Rhino, Ground Zero, myself, yourself, Barked, and etc. So listen to the warning signs and speak to other people, because for the most part, casters do like to stick with each other.
This is going to be the last one, because I just thought of it at the very moment. What do you think he should do, or if he even can return to the esports scene?
Paying people would be a good start. Putting out a proper apology would be a good start, where he didn't, essentially just blame the casters and call us liars with our Discord server chock full to the brim with proof that he literally could not deny, and words being said out of his own mouth.
So, after the interview, me and Sir Pegasus continued speaking about the situation, and also a burner account of PNW's I discovered, where I was corrected that there wasn't only one. 2 tweets I saw from him from his burner accounts are telling people to report your account, And then another one he did was when Hazas reported like PNW's burner account, he tagged
There's
Rocket
another
League.
account.
There's
Wait,
another account? Oh no!
Yes.
No way,
That's
please.
account 3. That's
Three?
account 3.
How many does this guy have? Okay, yeah, I did not have a clue about this, and well, it's another layer to the story. The second burner account is quite like the average Twitter account, if you may, seeing as his first tweet is, "Just took a poop, #Twitter." More random stuff like this is all across his page, such as, "Every single school fight I see involves kids who are like 5'8", 120 pounds max. Little rats." And, "I mine Bitcoin from servers in Uganda." The tweets then get so much worse that all I have to say is get ready. God, I'm so horny. "Andrew Tate, I'm gonna peg you, Andrew Tate. Accidentally mistook a Pakistani for an Indian, and now I'm racist. I'm a racist." Those are the worst of them. Besides, Papa John's can catch these hands, and a full library of stuff like it, which, by the way, what did Papa John's do to infuriate the almighty PNW? Did he potentially overcharge him on the Philly cheesesteak pizza? PNW doesn't like getting scammed, Papa John's, I'd be careful. Turning my attention away from that disturbance, the tweets from June correlate with the actual scam. As 5 days after my post, the burner account takes shots at Anthony Malum, a caster who was a part of the scam a while ago, and the tweet goes as, "Hey yo, fuck Anthony Malum. I paid his fat ass. Buy more cheeseburgers, fatty." Now, Anthony is a great individual, because the second the scam appeared, he reached out to me in the replies, offering a safe space of opportunities. So to see him addressed this way by PNW is so cringe-inducing. And after Anthony, Sir Pegasus was also on the bad list of PNW, where he responded to a casting announcement with a meme going, "Fuck Sir Pegasus, all my homies hate Sir Pegasus." Made with Mematic, if you were wondering how this masterpiece came to be. That was replied to by Absolute Gold, with Hodge stating how free the rent inside this guy's head is, and Fish thanking him for coming back as he missed hating on PNW. This account's final remark regarding this whole scene is posting a picture of being blocked by Sir Pegasus unsurprisingly, with the caption stating, "If you're gonna dish it out, then at least be able to take a little." The amount of contradiction brought to the table here might be able to feed a whole family of Kirby's if they replaced all the Knights of the Round Table. Keep in mind, it's not like PNW didn't block anyone. Me and many, if not all included, are blocked. So as far as this caption goes, it should also apply to him. There will be talk about another burner account later, which doesn't have nearly as much as this one, but that's enough of these alt accounts for now. Let's get back to finishing business. We slowly begin reaching the final moments of this video, with only 2 more pieces of information to remain. The first being PNW's response, which is best summarized by, "We all agreed, but since there was no contract or an agreed timeline, it doesn't count. Casters were disrespectful and unprofessional through threats, harassment, and bullying, which tore the relationship. That's why I won't pay them and wish them the best of luck." I'll unblur it for anyone wanting to read the full response, and after, I'll debunk everything. First, an offer, acceptance, consideration, and mutual intention were within our conversations, meaning this was a legally binding contract. Second, he mentions no timeline being discussed, but forgets about it being at the end of each month according to his own words. Third, I don't see the harassment, bullying, and disrespect in our conversations besides the one where PNW hurls insults at Haza and acts disrespectfully towards others. This includes Twitter replies, Discord messages, and overall pathetic behavior. If you thought it couldn't get worse, let me show you how I've saved the best for last. Archeon, the owner of a Rocket League esports league, responded to PNW on Twitter, breaking down all PNW is wrong for, and receiving a response where PNW flexes how he's put more money into his show matches within 3 months than Archeon has in 3 years. Signed by PNW, by the way. just so no one thinks that it was anyone making him look bad. He does that for himself. Reptic reminds him of the refused payments, where PNW keeps comparing the money invested by Archaon and himself, while clearly hurt once it's brought to attention that Pigs and Wings hasn't valued even close to the investment. While already on Twitter, PNW has like 2 burner accounts. One of them responded to Sir Pegasus' tweet about the definitive statement, saying to report his account, ! And thumbs down emoji as well. Haza, being the kind soul he is, does as asked and reports the burner account, who then tags the official Rocket League Twitter asking them to stop working with Haza. I'm not quite sure if he genuinely thought that Rocket League were going to give a molecular piece of shit, but I can respect the effort. As for the Discord server, it remained mostly active from the side of PNW, with him claiming that his best attempts were made to create an enjoyable environment for me and LeckySpec, and straight out lying that the casters have been paid. Towards the end of his announcements, he also shifted his server into a private invite only and said, I didn't know the casters were weird. That's on me. I should not have brought them into the show matches. In the general chat of his server, some of the community turned on him, expecting an apology, but he manipulated them and called us liars, even though we have more than enough proof to back it up, open for reading. More talk about how the money he owes us are only made up numbers, even barked coming in to set the ground straight that he's owed 200 euros. PNW lies about how he sent half of it a week ago and argues with a community member of his who realizes nobody is getting paid. Honestly, I salute Potato for actually standing up against the lies and calling out PNW for the scum he is. And as another member of his community mentions that casting was the best bit for him and how he liked the casters, PNW's shocking response is, my casters are ash though, and if anyone that's being scammed, it's me. Afterwards, Potato was sadly banned. We will not forget the way he fought or how PNW continued lying to his community on our shit being made up and how he gave people money, casting opportunities, scrims, streams, and you know the deal by now. I don't want to spend any more time banging my head against this brick wall, so I'll quickly speedrun the summary of what PNW said in his Discord. I'll also leave the full screenshots open on the video, so if you want to read them, just pause. Calls the casters unprofessional, asking Potato, a 17-year-old, to go band for band, aka compare money. Claiming we would have been paid if we didn't speak out on Twitter, saying it's his money, taking shots at Archaon's league and mentioning how it pays less. For the bare minimum, at least it does pay. PNW, take notes. And yeah, should about sum it up. I imagine a headache has been building up the more you've watched this video, so to slowly put you at ease, only one more input lies. I've spoken about the conversations between myself, PNW, him and the other casters, but to end it off, I want to show you the private messages including Ground Zero, who I appreciate for allowing me to share these. The background of his introduction doesn't matter. What does is how PNW began his lies about his payments in January, by making it look as if Ground Zero has more important things that wouldn't fit inside the Pigs and Wings standard. He felt likewise for Pet and Rhino, who have gotten great opportunities, but PNW doesn't want to bring in a caster who is more experienced? Not only trying to passively remove him and the thought of payment, but in this message, Ground Zero's assumed early job was in 2024. Meaning he hasn't been paid in over a year. That money then also denied due to Ground Zero retweeting my and LeckySpec's post, with such a manipulative statement where he says it was within his plan to pay him over the next few weeks, but doesn't feel like anymore due to his betrayal of respect. Like, sure, you've been waiting a whole year just to do it this week. Keep lying to yourself. Ground Zero then cooks him into oblivion, stating how PNW has been promising that over for a year, which is so sad. PNW then has the audacity to call me and LeckySpec trolls, how he... What did we do? How we harassed and threatened him for the past 1 to 2 months, and that we are not professional casters? These are DMs with Ground Zero. What are me and LeckySpec doing in this conversation? As Ground Zero gives him a rundown of how basic agreements work, it circles back to me and LeckySpec being immature and stupid. Why are we constantly catching strays? Hit a nerve, did we? Concluding his point, he states me and LeckySpec posting screenshots and sensitive information, aka Discord DMs, is apparently way worse than the scam, lying, manipulating, and overall scum activity he has pulled. But in the case PNW ever wants to make a comeback, this video here serves as a great reminder why that opportunity is already far gone. The final page of the book is flipped as we conclude the inside of everything done wrong by PNW. I've expressed more than enough how I feel about what he's done, and you've also heard it from others than myself. It goes without saying that I under no circumstance condone anyone to seek out PNW's contact or attention to harass him or anything of the sorts. I only pray that anything like this doesn't happen yet again. To ensure that, I do hope you can spread the video or message with anyone who might be interested or already part of the scene. Now, I'm not saying esports is constantly like this. It's an uncommon occurrence, but when it happens, it can ruin passions. Which, as a fun last fact, what I covered here was the scam surrounding the production scene. There is also another scam rabbit hole about the teams and players that participated in the PNW show matches who also got scammed out of their prize money. It puts the thought out there as for how much PNW actually owes people, but I won't talk about it further seeing how long this video already is and would rather not bother past players about the situation. The cooperation, support, and communications with casters involved or not within this scam was so great to see, because seeing how well everyone can stick together once a wrong is realized is something I will always be inspired by. I would rather not waste any more of your time, so with that in mind, I hope you have a great, and I mean great, rest of your day. Alright, it's 1 PM in the morning and I got a lovely screenshot from somewhere where PNW seems to try and explain everything. I have to speak quietly so I don't wake up everyone, but I respect him actually telling the truth. As much as I'm all for second chances, it sadly doesn't ignore the fact there were many NA casters before us, the shit-talking, overall effect it's had, and everything I've covered in this video. PNW will need time and compensation to make up for it all. I'm happy he looks to be a bit more understanding in the statement, but I honestly can't give you anything else than that. Inside his statement, it might look like he's making rights for his wrongs, which I appreciate, but I can't guarantee a situation such as this will not happen again, as it has plenty of times up until now. He also said that the casters should have been more appreciative of the 15 euros for the 30 to 40 minutes of casting, which we were. But it becomes an issue when that money isn't delivered and all of us work for nothing. As for the reason I'm keeping this video the way it is mostly because he claims that PNW isn't a scam. Maybe not in your view, PNW, but the money you've essentially stripped from many and how long this has been going on for, not to even mention the way you reacted and responded to it all, it seems like a scam to me. And as for my final say, ladies and gentlemen, don't take my word as your opinion, judge for yourself and what you think. Also, let me know all about it down in the comments, and with that, bye-bye.